Imagine not being able to have a child in a continent that ranks high in the global fertility rates in Africa, a place where marriages is often viewed as a means to an end, the end being procreation. Serfine Achieng Ouma takes you to the world of women who have had to bear the brunt of being childless in a society where the paradox of high fertility and high infertility rates still baffles many.
According to the United Nations, on average, women in sub-Saharan Africa have about 5 children over their reproductive lifetime, compared to a global average of 2.5 children. Africa has one of the highest infertility rates, which is estimated to be about 30% of the population. Coming closer home in Kenya, this is estimated to be between 15 to 20%. I sought to find out how it feels to have no child in a society that faces such a paradox. My journey takes me to the quiet Kamihawa village at the heart of Bondo sub-county in Siaya County. Here, I meet Margaret Agutu, a widow for 10 years. Margaret has fond memories of her late husband.
I
loved my husband because he respected me.
Her high spirits, as she narrates their love story, can mislead you to think that her marriage was a bed of roses. That may have been her desire, but being in a childless marriage was a painful experience.
My brothers encourage me. When I go home, I tell them, you are lucky, you have your children. All my sisters have children except me.
Margaret was married for 5 years before she realized conceiving was difficult. Even though her husband was supportive, societal pressure left her with no option but to request him to marry a second wife.
Even after he married my co-wife, he didn't change his attitude towards me. He treated us equally. He gave me more, saying that I have no one else to help me.
But having children birthed by her co-wife was not enough to fill the gap of being childless.
Even this house, my nephew built it, but I cannot complete it because I have no one to help me. I have no child, so I depend on help from people.
She shares the same plight as Jane Akumu Okoto, a resident of Waseda village in Siaya. In her 30 years of marriage, Jane never got pregnant. After losing her husband years back and with no child of her own, she paints a picture of the solitude she faces in her sunset days.
It is God who gives, and if He doesn't give, I cannot take by force.
Next, I meet Rose Awino Obondo. She has been married twice. During her first marriage, she lived with her husband in Nairobi and was employed as a civil servant. But the exposure to urban life and the financial independence was not enough to keep the emptiness of being childless at bay. The pressure to have a child prompted her to find other alternatives in a bid to silence the naysayers.
Pata mtoto naye. Nikapata mimba tena mpaka mimi najua tu niko naye. Hata watu wa kazi alijua.
Ya huyo bwanako.
No, wakati hiyo tuliwachana.
Even in her second marriage, her conception journey remained far from over.
Tangu siku hiyo tumbo yangu toke mtoto nimetoa kwa roho, siwezi pata, niko hivyo tu.
Dr. Boniface Obai Kamau is a reproductive health expert at Ambira Sub-County Hospital.
Utakuja
after 28 days, lakini kuja on a Monday.
We meet him making his routine rounds at the facility's maternity wing. This new mother cannot hide her happiness after a successful delivery. Joy that thousands of women have not experienced and perhaps never will in a society that still has misconceptions around infertility. In many communities, it is still associated with witchcraft.
Tumbo yangu alitoka tu hapa. Watu hapa Sakwa pia iko ma relatives zangu ya mama yangu. Kamwambia akasema ungelala kwa hiyo kitanda. Labda hiyo kitanda ndio iko na kitu mbaya.
One person told me to sacrifice my blood brother so I can be able to conceive, but I refused.
So what are the contributing factors of infertility?
Infertility is actually being unable to conceive despite having regular and protected sexual intercourse. We have where the uterus, for example, during birth, a woman is born without the uterus or is born without the cervix or even the vagina. Those are abnormalities related to formation of the baby in the uterus. Secondary, it means it's a problem secondary to another cause. Commonly we have infections, and these infections will cause tubal blockage. The fallopian tubes normally block, and then the ovary is not able to be fertilized. The sperms cannot reach the ovary to get fertilized.
Despite the high rates of infertility, many are yet to understand its root causes and available options for treatment, and continue suffering in silence. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Serfine Achieng Ouma.